Okay, here we're going to be looking at blood vessels of the body. We have a picture here of some blood, and we also have something that may initially seem unrelated, which is the Connecticut River watershed, on any watershed really, for example. And what this is we can make connections between this and the blood vessels in our own body and see how there's some similarities and some differences that do occur. So getting into classes of blood vessels, there's three main classes. First are arteries and arterioles. They carry blood away from the heart. Veins, or venules, carry blood to the heart. And in between our arteries and our veins is this structure here called the capillary. And this allows for exchange of nutrients, wastes, and gases. Now typically, as we see here, the arteries typically may be drawn in red because they're carrying oxygenated blood. And veins are typically in blue because they're carrying blood away from the heart, deoxygenated blood. Now, even though we may draw it like this and have nice red and blue images, our blood, no matter where it is in the body, will be a shade of red. So don't think that your blood is automatically turns blue and it's deoxygenated. No, it's always a shade of red. Continuing on, focusing first on our arteries. These are thick-walled and lined with smooth muscle. Remember, this is carrying blood away from the heart. So away from the heart. Arteries, think away. The arterioles branch off from that. They expand with each heartbeat and contract afterwards, which is what's helping the blood move. As blood comes from the heart in large pulses, the artery must be able to expand. As a result, the arteries are made up of three walls. You see one of them here, also where that smooth muscle is located. Arterioles are small in diameter than arteries, and their surrounding muscle layer can be relaxed to enlarge their diameter. All of these specific kind of details about the artery help move blood from the heart. Now arterioles, as I mentioned, they can constrict to direct and control blood flow. They may, for example, increase blood supply to the skin to allow more heat to basically be dispersed in the environment, or constrict during stress to redirect blood to the heart and muscles. So here's our arterial example, and that's leading and getting closer to our capillaries. Now our veins, or venules, which are a small structure, again on the other side of the capillary, they're thin-walled and they collect blood. Low pressure in these venules allows the capillary beds to drain into them. So again, we have our blood coming this way, going through our capillary, first entering our thin-walled venule. From there, we're going into our veins. So veins have thinner layers of muscle and elastic fiber or walls than their arteries. When emptying, they will collapse. So important to remember some differences between our arteries and our veins here. Contraction of skeletal muscle helps move blood up the limbs and back to the heart. And also, veins contain valves, which prevent backflow of blood. So we see here our blood going this way. And to prevent the backflow of that blood, we see here that valve in our veins closing up here, so blood cannot go backwards. This helps move blood, get it back to the heart so it can be recirculated throughout the body. Arteries compared to a vein, so here's a nice little direct comparison here. Here's our example of our artery. Here's our example of our vein. Now, they say they share the same general features, but the walls of the arteries are much thicker because of the higher pressure they have to endure. Here's a micrograph comparison that shows the relative differences in thickness. It's a little harder to tell in this image here, but in the pictorial here with the labeling, it's very easy to tell that much thinner appearance of the vein compared to the artery. And it does also exist here. We have much thicker artery than our vein because arteries have to deal with higher pressure. Now veins in returning blood to the heart, preventing black flow. These presence of valves. There's low pressure in veins, so that's important to make note of. They also have skeletal muscles and unidirectional valves. So as we see here, pushing, moving the blood this way, the valve opens. Then we see the valve closing here, preventing that backflow. We also see that here, blood flowing this way, and then that valve closing, preventing the backflow. You can see here muscles relax and the valve closes. And when the muscle contracts here, now we're able to force and move that blood through there. It might be a little hard to tell on this graph, on this picture here, but we can see the veins are located in this distinctive region here. Capillaries. So this is in between the venules and the arterioles. These are body tissues that contain a vast network of thin capillaries. Capillaries themselves have very thin walls and allow blood to pass. It's only one cell thick, and allowing these blood vessels to travel through here one cell at a time. This allows the exchange of gases such as carbon dioxide and oxygen, also nutrients and waste through the process of diffusion. So it's important this is not active transport, but this is diffusion. Capillaries are so fine that red blood cells must line up single file to go through them. So this is what's allowing that maximum amount of surface area. This is what they get that kind of net appearance to them. Here's our filtration, and again, the movement of carbon dioxide and oxygen and nutrients and waste is simply by the non-energy requiring diffusion process. Continuing on, the capillary network connects the arteries and the veins. Individual capillaries have high resistance to flow, but the total cross-sectional areas of capillaries is greater than those of the arteries leading to it. So blood loss, most of its pressure and velocity as it passes through this vast capillary network. So we have that high pressure here coming from the heart, through our aorta, through our arteries, and a lot of that's being lost. We have to squeeze those blood cells one at a time through the capillaries before returning to veins, before going back to the heart. Blood vessels, here's a nice comparison between our arteries and our veins, kind of putting everything together, showing that comparison of how thick the arteries are versus how thin the veins are. Doesn't mean they're necessarily different diameters as we see here, but we notice also the presence of a valve here in the veins. So veins, think valve, arteries, think away from the heart. Lastly, here's a couple major arteries and veins. We'll get into these a little bit more detail when we're focusing on the heart specifically. Our femoral artery is near our femur, so you can see some of the names here match that of the bones of the skeleton that they're near. And keep in mind our arteries are typically in red, veins are typically represented in blue, even though our blood, no matter where it's located in our body, is always a shade of red.